subscribe to the channel and like. Happy viewing. Israeli troops demolish home of Palestinian assailant. The Israeli military says troops have demolished the home of a Palestinian man who killed a Jewish seminary student in a shooting ambush in the occupied West Bank 5 months ago. Jerusalem. Israeli troops on Saturday demolished the home of a Palestinian man who killed a Jewish seminary student in a shooting ambush in the occupied West Bank 5 months ago, the military said. The demolition took place around dawn in the village of Salat al-Qardiyat, with troops swinging sledgehammers to break walls and setting off explosives. Residents threw stones and fire bombs at soldiers who fired live rounds, the army said. Palestinian medics said 3 Palestinians were injured by live fire and others by tear gas inhalation. Such demolitions have been denounced by rights groups as collective punishment, and the military suspended the practice for several years, starting in 2005, after concluding it did not serve as an effective deterrent. The army resumed demolitions several years ago and now carries them out routinely in response to attacks in which Palestinians kill Israelis. In the most recent attack, 2 Palestinians from the West Bank killed 3 Israelis and wounded 4 in a mass stabbing in the ultra-Orthodox Jewish town of Lod in central Israel on Thursday. As of Saturday, the suspected assailants, 2 young men from the town of Jenin, remained at large. Officials familiar with the investigation said the attackers arrived in Lod in a vehicle driven by one of the victims and then killed him. At least one attacker also used an axe, according to officials who spoke on condition of anonymity because they were not authorized to discuss details with the media. A gag order has been placed on much of the investigation. At least 18 Israelis have been killed in 5 attacks since March, including another stabbing rampage in southern Israel, 2 shootings in the Tel Aviv area, and a shooting last weekend in a West Bank settlement. Nearly 30 Palestinians have died in violence, most of whom had carried out attacks or were involved in confrontations with Israeli forces in the West Bank. But an unarmed woman and 2 apparent bystanders were also among those killed, and rights groups say Israel often uses excessive force. Hamas, the Islamic militant group ruling the Gaza Strip, claimed responsibility for one of the attacks in which 2 assailants killed a security guard at the entrance of a West Bank settlement last week. Some Israeli media personalities suggested that Israel respond by targeting Yahya Sinwar, Hamas top leader in Gaza. On Saturday, the group's armed wing warned Israel of unprecedented response if Sinwar was hurt. Hamas and Israel have fought 4 wars and dozens of shorter rounds of cross-border skirmishes since 2008. The ongoing conflict plays out against the backdrop of Israel's occupation, now in its 55th year, of the West Bank and other lands Palestinians seek for a state. Serious peace talks collapsed more than a decade ago, while Israel's settlement expansion on occupied lands has continued unabated. On Friday, Israel said it is set to advance plans for the construction of 4,000 settler homes in the West Bank. If approved, it would be the biggest advancement of settlement plans since the Biden administration took office. The White House is opposed to settlement growth because it further erodes the possibility of an eventual 2-state solution to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Earlier this week, Israel's Supreme Court upheld an expulsion order that would force at least 1,000 Palestinians out of an arid region in the southern West Bank where they say they have been living for decades. The military declared the area a firing zone in the early 1980s. That's all, thanks for watching, and see you in the next video.